are you?
How are you? Oh my
Good,
gosh,
good.
fancy seeing you here.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no, come on. Welcome to London.
Yeah.
Right? And welcome to London.
Yes.
Right?
Clearly.
We got a little rain, we
Yeah.
got a little clouds, but it wouldn't probably be the same. I see people with umbrellas.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be London without a little bit of that. So
I think it's part of the charm. I think it just adds to the vibe. So I'll take it. It's one of my favorite cities. So for
absolutely.
me,
Mine as well.
Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite cities in the world. I love living here.
Yeah, and honestly, what a fun location to start with. Sherlock Holmes pub.
Yeah, I kind of thought this would be the right place to start this conversation, right? Because we're going to continue our conversation from Vienna. We're going to talk a little bit more about situational awareness, about the impact of training, and London is absolutely perfect venue for that.
Absolutely. Especially Sherlock Holmes behind us. When I think about him, I'm thinking, he was pretty good at noticing what didn't fit, right? So it's almost like he created situational awareness before the term even existed in our industry right now, in a way.
Well, I mean, he was probably the most famous security professional,
Yeah.
right? That London or the UK ever produced,
Yeah.
right? But he had a very different approach. He was doing the what doesn't fit and situational awareness before we called it situational awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because he knew how to separate what was happening from the noise around it, and that's part of the key, right? And how we instill that as a skill and layer it into the other skills that everybody has to do, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say he was good at listening, observing, noticing before he acted or spoke, right? In a way.
Absolutely. That's the key, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Kevin, from my limited knowledge about Sherlock Holmes, obviously classic, right? But the one thing that always stuck with me is that he was really good at not reacting fast and really just focusing maybe on noticing things that others did not see or observe. Is that right?
Yeah, well, he didn't look for danger per se as much as the things that didn't fit, right? And some of those things that didn't fit led to danger,
Yeah.
right? But he looked for and made observations before he made conclusions.
Okay, so again, we're in busy London. So tell me, what would Sherlock Holmes notice on this street that most of us would miss?
Okay, so on a street like this, we're looking at patterns, not people, okay? We're looking at the behavior, we're not looking at appearances. We're looking at the movement and the pace. Is there any hesitation? Is there familiarity? Basically, what doesn't belong, not necessarily what looks, scary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the disconnect, right? Because a lot of times when we talk about situational awareness, we're teaching it at a point where we're trying to attach it to something that's scary, right? Whether it's active threat, or, active shooter, active threat, or any type of robbery, or other type of, violence situation. But situational awareness applies to everything. It applies to everything that you're doing in running a business, whether you're in a retail store, whether you're in a bank, whether you're in hospitality, right? It's noticing what's going on around you and adapting to what's happening, but noticing those things that don't fit, those things that are a little misaligned.
Right. But as I hear you talk about it, when I think about frontline employees that are on the ground, does that mean they have to be like detectives in a way?
Well, that's just it, right? How do you take somebody who's not a detective and make this a skill that's kind of ingrained into their job? And that's where proper training comes into play, right? Because you have to layer this onto the job skills that they already have. It has to become part of the norm of how you operate and not like a separate, like it's not a moment in time where you say, okay, now step out of your role to come over here and try to pay attention to things, right? It just has to become, you have to reinforce it enough that it becomes part of your natural behavior. And we have to teach escalation as more of a norm because it happens, right? It's not something to be scared of. It's not something to be, worried about all the time, but you just have to know what's going on so that you can adapt and then use the right skills at the right time to help modify the behavior. So Sherlock Holmes reminds us that awareness starts with how we see the world, right? But unlike Sherlock Holmes, who worked in, a nice quiet environment, our frontline teams, they work in a very busy environment, right? Lots of stuff going on, lots of stuff moving around, lots of stuff happening on the floor.
Exactly. So to me, the question is, how does or what does situational awareness look like when you are working in that under that constant pressure and security is not your primary job?
Well, let's move on to the next location, and let's see if we can get things a little bit busier, and let's talk about that.
I'm sure we can find a spot in London.
I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.